San Quentin State Prison, California. February 1971. Cell Block D. James Wilson woke up the same way he'd woken up every day for 2,847 days, in a cell. For a crime he didn't commit. He was 38 years old, Korean War veteran, Purple Heart recipient, husband, father of two, and innocent. Nobody believed him. Not the jury that convicted him in 1963. Not the judge who sentenced him to 15 years. Not the appeals court that denied his case. Not even his own lawyer who told him, just plead guilty, take 10 years instead of risking 25. But James wasn't guilty, and 400 miles south in Los Angeles, a letter was about to change everything. Dean Martin's office, Los Angeles, California. Same day. Carol, Dean's assistant, brought in the morning mail. "Anything urgent?" Dean asked. "There's one." She hesitated. "It's from a prisoner's wife." Dean looked up. "What does it say?" "You should read it." She handed him the envelope. The return address, Elizabeth Wilson, Bakersfield, California. Dean opened it. The letter. "Dear Mr. Martin, my name is Elizabeth Wilson. My husband James is in San Quentin State Prison. He's serving a 15-year sentence for armed robbery. He's been there for 8 years. He didn't do it. I know everyone says that about their husband, but I'm telling you the truth. James was at work when the robbery happened. We have his time card, but his boss wouldn't testify because James had filed a workplace discrimination complaint against him. The police had the real robber in custody that same night, a man who matched the witness description perfectly, but they let him go and arrested James instead. James is a Korean War veteran. He has a Purple Heart. He's never been in trouble with the law, but he's been in prison for 8 years for another man's crime. I've written to lawyers, to advocacy groups, to politicians. Nobody will listen. I'm writing to you because I don't know where else to turn. My husband is innocent. Our children are growing up without their father, and nobody cares. If you're reading this, thank you. Even if you can't help, thank you for not throwing this letter away. Sincerely, Elizabeth Wilson. Dean read it twice. Then he called his business manager. "I need a private investigator, the best one you know." "What's this about?" "Justice." 2 days later, Robert Chen sat in Dean's office. Chen was a former LAPD detective, 30 years on the force. Retired in 1969, now ran a private investigation firm. "Tell me about the case," Chen said. Dean handed him Elizabeth's letter, then a folder he'd already started compiling. News clippings, court records, everything he could find about James Wilson's conviction. Chen read through it carefully. 1963. Armed robbery of a liquor store in Bakersfield. Owner shot, non-fatal. Robber got away with $800. James Wilson was convicted based on witness identification. But look at the description. Chen read aloud. Suspect described as black male, approximately 5'8", 160 pounds, thin build, scar on left cheek. Now look at James Wilson's booking photo. Chen studied it. He's at least 6'2", easily 210 pounds, no facial scars. Keep reading. Chen flipped pages. Work time card shows Wilson clocked in at 3 p.m., clocked out at 11:15 p.m. Robbery occurred at 9:30 p.m. His boss, Frank Hendricks, refused to testify that Wilson was at work. Said he couldn't remember if Wilson was there that night. Chen's expression darkened. "Let me guess. Wilson had filed some kind of complaint against Hendricks?" "Racial discrimination complaint. 2 months before the robbery. EOC was investigating. So Hendricks had motivation to lie." Chen kept reading. Public defender. Jesus. The defense basically didn't happen. No investigation. No attempt to find the real robber. Just told Wilson to plead guilty. There's more. Police arrested another man that same night. Marcus Johnson. Perfect match for the witness description. 5'7", 155 pounds, scar on left cheek, but they released him without charges. Chen looked up. Why? Nobody knows. The arrest report says insufficient evidence, but they had the same witness identification they used to convict Wilson. This stinks. Can you investigate it? Mr. Martin, this case is 8 years old. Evidence is gone. Witnesses might be dead or disappeared. And even if I find proof Wilson is innocent, getting someone out of prison after conviction is almost impossible. Almost, but not impossible. It'll cost you time and money. I can't promise results. I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking you to find the truth. Chen stood up, extended his hand. "I'll take the case." 2 weeks later, Chen returned to Dean's office. He looked tired, but he was smiling. "I found Marcus Johnson." Dean leaned forward. "Where?" "Oakland. He's been in and out of jail for the past 8 years. Petty theft, drug possession, assault. The liquor store robbery in Bakersfield was never on his record." "Did you talk to him?" "I did better than that. I recorded him." Chen pulled out a tape recorder, set it on Dean's desk, pressed play. Chen's voice on the tape. "Marcus, I'm investigating the 1963 liquor store robbery in Bakersfield, the one James Wilson got convicted for." Marcus Johnson's voice, slurred, tired. "Man, I don't know nothing about that." Chen, "You were arrested that same night, then released. Wilson matched the description less than you did, but he went to prison. Why?" Long pause. Marcus, "Look, I don't want trouble." Chen, "Nobody's recording this. I just want the truth." Lie. Chen was recording, but it was legal in California as long as one party consented. Marcus, "I did that robbery. Me and another guy. We hit that liquor store, got $800. The owner pulled a gun. My partner shot him. We ran." Chen, "Why did the police let you go?" Marcus, "I gave them info on another case, bigger case, drug ring. They wanted that more than they wanted me for the liquor store." Chen, "So they let you walk?" Marcus, "They said if I cooperated, they'd forget about the robbery. I cooperated. They kept their word." Chen, "And James Wilson?" Marcus, "I don't know that dude. But yeah, I heard they pinned it on somebody else, black guy from the factory. I guess they needed somebody to take the fall." The tape clicked off. Dean sat in silence. Then, "They let the real robber go and sent an innocent man to prison for 8 years. That's what it looks like. We need to get Wilson out. It's not that simple. This tape is evidence, but prosecutors can argue it's hearsay. Johnson could recant, and police will claim they acted in good faith. I don't care what they claim. James Wilson is innocent, and I'm getting him out." San Quentin State Prison, 1 week later. Dean drove to San Quentin, requested a visit with James Wilson. The guards were shocked. "Dean Martin wants to visit an inmate?" "I do." They processed him through, took him to the visitation room. James Wilson entered, tall, broad shoulders despite 8 years of prison food, gray starting in his hair, eyes tired but alert. He sat down across from Dean, looked confused. "Mr. Martin?" "Call me Dean." "Why are you here?" "Your wife wrote to me, Elizabeth. She told me you're innocent." James's face hardened. "Everyone in here says they're innocent." "I believe you." "Why?" Dean pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. "Because I had someone investigate your case, and everything about it is wrong." James opened the folder, started reading. His hands began to shake. "The witness description doesn't match you. I told my lawyer that. He said it didn't matter. Your time card shows you were at work during the robbery. My boss said he couldn't remember. Because you filed a discrimination complaint against him." James looked up, tears in his eyes. "You found all this?" "I found more. The police arrested the real robber that same night, Marcus Johnson. He confessed to my investigator." "He confessed?" "On tape." James put his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. "James, I've been here 8 years. 8 years of my life. My kids were 3 and 5 when I went in. Now they're 11 and 13. I missed their childhoods. My wife had to raise them alone. We lost our house, our savings, everything, for a crime I didn't commit. I'm going to get you out." "How?" "I've had 2 appeals, both denied. We're going to file for a new trial. We have new evidence, the confession, the time card, the description, mismatch, everything. What if it doesn't work? Then we keep fighting, as long as it takes." James looked at Dean. "Why are you doing this? You don't know me. I know you're innocent. That's enough." Dean went to the Bakersfield Police Department, asked to speak with the detective who'd handled James Wilson's case in 1963, Detective Harold Barnes, retired now. But Dean found his address, knocked on his door. Barnes answered, 71 years old, surprised to see Dean Martin on his porch. "Mr. Martin, what can I do for you?" "I'm here about James Wilson." Barnes's face changed. "That's a closed case." "Is it? Because I have evidence that Wilson is innocent and that you let the real robber go." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Marcus Johnson. You arrested him the same night as the liquor store robbery. He matched the witness description perfectly. But you released him." I don't remember. You released him because he gave you information on a drug case. And then you needed someone to take the fall for the robbery. So you arrested James Wilson, even though he didn't match the description, even though he had an alibi. Barnes's face reddened. You don't know what you're talking about. I have Johnson's confession. On tape, he admits to the robbery. That won't hold up in court? Maybe not. But it'll hold up in the press. And when people find out that Bakersfield PD let the real criminal go and imprisoned an innocent veteran for 8 years, your department will be destroyed. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. Either you help me free James Wilson, or I expose this entire case publicly. Barnes was silent for a long moment. Finally, even if Wilson is innocent, I can't just reverse a conviction. That's not how it works. Then tell me what you know, on record, so we can file for a new trial. If I do that, I could be prosecuted for misconduct. You committed misconduct. James Wilson paid for your mistake with 8 years of his life. The least you can do is tell the truth. Barnes didn't cooperate, but Dean didn't need him to. He called a press conference. March 15th, 1971. Los Angeles Press Club. 50 journalists present. Dean stood at the podium, Elizabeth Wilson beside him. Thank you for coming. I'm here today to talk about a miscarriage of justice. In 1963, James Wilson, a Korean War veteran with a Purple Heart, was convicted of armed robbery in Bakersfield. He was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He's served 8 years so far. He's innocent. Here's what actually happened. Dean presented the evidence, piece by piece. The witness description that didn't match. The time card showing Wilson was at work. The boss who lied because Wilson had filed a discrimination complaint. Marcus Johnson's confession. The police decision to let the real robber go. The journalists wrote furiously. One asked, Mr. Martin, why are you involved in this? Because Mrs. Wilson asked for help, and because this could happen to anyone. If it could happen to a war veteran with no criminal record, it could happen to any of us. What do you want to accomplish? I want James Wilson freed. I want the state to admit they imprisoned an innocent man. And I want reforms so this never happens again. The story exploded. Every newspaper in California covered it. Dean Martin exposes wrongful conviction. War veteran innocent, after 8 years in prison. Bakersfield police let real robber go free. Public outrage was massive. Bakersfield DA's office was flooded with calls. The governor's office got involved. 2 weeks later, Dean hired Thomas Chen, no relation to the PI, one of California's top criminal defense attorneys. They filed for a new trial. The evidence? Marcus Johnson's confession. Witness description? Mismatch Wilson's time card. Boss Frank Hendricks, now willing to testify? Too much public pressure to refuse. Police records showing Johnson was arrested and released the same night the prosecution fought it. Wilson had his day in court. The jury convicted him. This is just a celebrity trying to overturn justice. But the judge granted a hearing. June 1971. Bakersfield Superior Court. Evidentiary hearing. Dean attended every day. Sat in the courtroom, made sure the judge knew people were watching. Day 1, Frank Hendricks testified. Attorney Chen, Mr. Hendricks, in 1963, you told police you couldn't remember if James Wilson was at work on the night of the robbery. Is that correct? Hendricks, yes. Was that true? Long pause. No. So you lied. I was angry. Wilson had filed a discrimination complaint against me. I didn't want to help him. Did James Wilson work his full shift that night? Yes. He clocked in at 3 p.m., clocked out at 11:15 p.m. I saw him multiple times during his shift. He was there the entire time. So James Wilson could not have committed the robbery at 9:30 p.m.? No, he couldn't have. Day 2, Marcus Johnson testified, brought from prison where he was serving time for assault. Attorney Chen, Mr. Johnson, did you rob the Bakersfield Liquor Mart on November 18, 1963? Johnson, yes. Gasps in the courtroom. Did James Wilson participate in that robbery? No. I never met James Wilson. He had nothing to do with it. Why were you released after your arrest? I gave police information on a drug case. They said if I cooperated, they'd drop the robbery charge. And they did? Yes. Did you know James Wilson was convicted of the robbery you committed? I heard about it later. I felt bad, but I didn't know what to do. You could have told the truth. I would have gone to prison. Instead, an innocent man went to prison for you. Johnson looked down. Yes. Day 3. Detective Barnes testified, under subpoena. Attorney Chen. Detective Barnes, did you arrest Marcus Johnson on November 18, 1963? Barnes. Yes. Did he match the witness description of the robber? Yes. Height, weight, facial scar? Yes. But you released him? He provided information on a larger case. Did you have evidence linking James Wilson to the robbery? We had the witness identification. But the witness description didn't match Wilson, did it? Barnes shifted uncomfortably. There were discrepancies. 6 inches in height, 50 pounds in weight, no facial scar. Those are discrepancies. The witness was traumatized. Details can be unreliable. Yet you trusted those details enough to arrest Johnson. But when Johnson gave you information you wanted, you suddenly decided the details were unreliable? That's not. You needed someone to convict for the robbery. Johnson gave you information on the drug case, so you couldn't charge him. Wilson was convenient, a black man with a discrimination complaint against his boss, a boss who wouldn't give him an alibi. So you arrested Wilson instead. I followed proper procedures. You arrested an innocent man because it was convenient, and James Wilson lost 8 years of his life. The judge's ruling came 2 weeks later. Based on the evidence presented, this court finds that James Wilson's conviction was obtained through significant prosecutorial and police misconduct. The confession of Marcus Johnson, combined with the timeline evidence and witness description discrepancies, demonstrates that Mr. Wilson is factually innocent of the crime for which he was convicted. Mr. Wilson's conviction is hereby vacated. All charges are dismissed. Mr. Wilson is to be released immediately. Elizabeth screamed, collapsed in tears. Dean, sitting in the gallery, felt something release in his chest. James Wilson, brought into the courtroom in prison clothes, stood as the judge spoke. When she said released immediately, he closed his eyes. Tears ran down his face. James walked out of prison that afternoon, 8 years, 3 months, and 12 days after he'd entered. Elizabeth was waiting outside the gates, their children, now 11 and 13, beside her. James saw them, started running. They met in the middle, held each other, all 4 of them crying. Dean watched from a distance, didn't want to intrude on the moment, but James saw him, broke away from his family, walked over, extended his hand. Dean shook it. James pulled him into a hug. Thank you. Thank you for believing me. I'm sorry it took so long. You gave me my life back. But Dean wasn't done. He filed a civil lawsuit against the state of California. Wrongful imprisonment, civil rights violations, malicious prosecution. The state fought it for 2 years, finally settled in 1973. $2 million awarded to James Wilson. Dean paid all legal fees out of his own pocket. James kept every penny. Dean also pushed for systemic reforms. Testified before the California State Legislature. James Wilson's case exposed fundamental problems in our justice system. First, public defenders are overworked and underfunded. James's defender did almost no investigation, just told him to plead guilty. If we're going to guarantee the right to counsel, we need to fund it properly. Second, witness identification is unreliable. We need better procedures, video lineups, independent administrators, written descriptions before photos. Third, police have too much discretion in who they charge. They let the real robber go because he gave them information they wanted. Then, they charged an innocent man because it was convenient. We need oversight. Fourth, once someone is convicted, it's nearly impossible to prove innocence, even with new evidence. We need an easier process for exoneration when evidence emerges. Fifth, wrongfully convicted people deserve compensation. James lost 8 years. That's time he can never get back. The least the state can do is provide financial restitution. Several reforms were implemented over the next decade. Increased funding for public defenders, improved witness identification procedures, independent wrongful conviction, review board compensation statute for exonerees. James Wilson used his settlement money to rebuild his life, bought a house, put his kids through college, started a small business. But he didn't stop there. He became an advocate for the wrongfully convicted, worked with the California Innocence Project, helped investigate cases, testified at hearings, spoke publicly about his experience. Over the next 20 years, James helped exonerate 12 other wrongfully convicted people. In 1982, James was interviewed on 60 Minutes. Mr. Wilson, you lost 8 years of your life. Are you angry? I was, for a long time. But anger doesn't help. Action helps. What changed? Dean Martin. He showed me that one person can make a difference, that you don't have to accept injustice, that you can fight back. What would have happened if Dean hadn't helped you? James was quiet for a moment. I'd still be in prison, serving the last 3 years of my sentence. My kids would have grown up without a father. My wife would have struggled alone, and Marcus Johnson would have never faced consequences for what he did. Do you blame Johnson? I blame a system that let him go and imprisoned me instead. Johnson took advantage of that system, but the system is what failed. What do you want people to know? That wrongful convictions happen more often than people think, that innocent people are in prison right now, and that we have a moral obligation to find them and free them. Dean and James stayed in contact for the rest of Dean's life, called each other on holidays. James sent Dean photos of his kids, graduating college, getting married, having children of their own. In 1990, James published a book, 8 Years, My Fight for Freedom. The dedication read, "To Dean Martin, who believed me when nobody else would." When Dean Martin died, on Christmas Day, 1995, James Wilson spoke at the funeral. I met Dean Martin in a prison visitation room in 1971. I was a broken man. I'd been in prison for 8 years for a crime I didn't commit. I'd lost everything. My freedom, my time with my family, my belief that justice existed. Dean looked at me that day and said, "I believe you." Nobody had said that to me in 8 years. Not my lawyer, not the judge, not even some of my own family. But Dean believed me. And then he did something even more incredible. He fought for me. He hired investigators. He hired lawyers. He called press conferences. He testified before the legislature. He spent his own money and his own time to free a stranger. And when I got out, he didn't disappear. He stayed in my life, called to check on me, celebrated with me when my kids graduated, became family. Dean Martin saved my life, not figuratively, literally. Without him, I'd have served 7 more years in prison. My kids would have grown up without me. My wife would have been alone, and I would have died a broken man, convicted of a crime I didn't commit. Instead, I got to be free. I got to rebuild my life. I got to help other wrongfully convicted people. I got to become a father again, a husband again, a human again, all because Dean Martin answered a letter from a desperate woman, because he believed an innocent man, because he fought for justice when nobody else would. They say Dean Martin was cool, charming, talented, and he was all those things. But to me, Dean Martin was something more important. He was proof that good people exist, that powerful people can choose to help powerless people. That one person really can change someone's life. Dean gave me back my freedom, my dignity, my hope. I will never forget what he did for me, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be even half the man he was. Marcus Johnson served 3 years for the liquor store robbery after confessing. Released in 1974, died in 1998. Before his death, he was interviewed about James Wilson. I think about him every day. I think about the 8 years he lost because of me, because I was a coward who wouldn't admit what I did. Dean Martin did what I should have done. He told the truth. He fought for justice. He made things right. I can't undo what I did, but I'm grateful someone had the courage to fix my mistake. Detective Harold Barnes retired in 1975, died in 1989. His son found a letter among his belongings, never sent, addressed to James Wilson. It said, "Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake in 1963. I let the real robber go and arrested you instead. I told myself I was following orders, doing my job. But I knew it was wrong, and I did it anyway. I stole 8 years of your life. I will regret that until the day I die. I hope you can find peace. I never will." Harold Barnes. This is the story of 1971, when a war veteran sat in prison for a crime he didn't commit. When his wife wrote a desperate letter to a famous singer, when that singer could have ignored it, could have sent money, could have expressed sympathy. Instead, Dean Martin launched an investigation, hired the best private detective, hired the best lawyers, called press conferences, testified before the legislature, fought for 2 years to free an innocent man, and then spent $2 million in legal fees to get that man compensated. Not because it was easy, not because it was profitable, not because it would make him more famous, but because James Wilson was innocent, and Dean believed him. That's the lesson. Believe people when they ask for help, especially when they have nothing to offer you in return, especially when helping them costs you time and money and effort, especially when the system tells you they don't matter. James Wilson mattered. His 8 stolen years mattered. His family mattered. His innocence mattered. And Dean Martin understood that. He used his fame to get attention. He used his money to hire experts. He used his voice to demand justice. And he freed an innocent man. James went on to help free 12 other wrongfully convicted people. Those 12 people helped free dozens more. That's the ripple effect of one man believing another, of one man refusing to accept injustice, of one man understanding that power is worthless if you don't use it to help people who can't help themselves. Dean Martin could have lived his comfortable life and never thought about wrongful convictions. But he got a letter, and he answered it, and an innocent man walked free. That's not just kindness. That's not just generosity. That's heroism. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't ask for applause. The kind that just does what's right. Because it's right. James Wilson lost 8 years. But he got the rest of his life back because Dean Martin believed him and fought for him and never gave up. That's the man Dean was. That's the legacy he left. Not just the music, not just the movies, not just the fame, but the lives he saved, the justice he demanded, the people he believed when nobody else would. James Wilson spent 8 years in prison. He spent 24 years free, helping others, all because Dean Martin answered a letter.